You need to talk to your daughter. Jessica's voice, my golden little sister, crackles through the phone. Not a hint of remorse, just petulant irritation. I grip the phone tighter, the cold plastic case digging into my palm. Chloe just stormed out and made Anja feel super awkward. She goes on. She totally ruined the vibe tonight. So embarrassing. Ruined the vibe? Embarrassing? I take a deep breath, the hospital's antiseptic sting hitting my nose, a familiar scent of controlled chaos. But right now, the real storm isn't out in the hallway where my colleagues are fighting to save lives. It's raging in my chest, a cold, precise fury. The last straw didn't just tip the glass. It shattered the dam I've spent a lifetime building. My voice turns icy, eerily calm. Jessica, listen up. My daughter, Chloe, just drove alone for nearly an hour in the dark from your fancy mountain mansion to our empty apartment. Because our mother, in front of everyone, decided a foreign exchange student we've known for a few months matters more than her own granddaughter. Chloe didn't ruin the vibe. Our family broke her heart. And you're calling me to complain about the vibe? Silence on the other end. A guilty silence. I don't wait for a response. I hang up. That phone call changed everything. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've poured your heart out only to get indifference in return, if you've ever been treated like a second choice, an inconvenience, this story is for you. And if that's you, do one thing for me and for yourself right now. Hit that subscribe button, because you're not just watching a video, you're finding your people. You found your tribe. My name is Dr. Evelyn Hayes. For 15 years, my job has been making split-second decisions to save lives. But it took me 16 years to realize I failed to protect the one who matters most. My daughter, Chloe. This isn't just about a disastrous Thanksgiving dinner. It's about the contrast between the material wealth of Evergreen, Colorado, and the emotional wealth we've had to build ourselves in Aurora. It's about subtle digs, blatant favoritism, and a 16-year-old girl with vibrant blue hair and a heart of gold who only ever wanted one thing: to be seen. You're about to see what happens when a mother who spent her life healing others' wounds finally decides to heal her own family's, with fire, with truth, and with boundaries as hard as steel. So, buckle up, the party's just getting started, and I'm going to tell you exactly what went down that day. To understand why that phone call was the final straw, I need to take you back a few hours to Thanksgiving morning. It all started, as it often does, with a stark contrast. My world, Chloe's world, is our 2-bedroom apartment in Aurora. It's not big, but it's alive with light and warmth. The air always carries the faint scent of oil paint from Chloe's artwork and the bold coffee I need to survive 12-hour shifts. Our walls are a chaotic but loving gallery of her talent. Charcoal sketches, watercolor paintings, and bold abstract experiments. This is our safe haven, a place where creativity is celebrated, where Chloe's blue hair isn't a rebellious phase, but a piece of the artist she is. The other world, my family's world, is an hour's drive up winding mountain roads in Evergreen. It's a world of massive cedar mansions with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the majestic Rockies. My sister Jessica's house is a monument to sterile perfection. Gleaming oak floors, pricey minimalist furniture, not a speck of dust in sight. For my family, success is measured in square footage and stock prices. Love, I've come to realize, is shown through expensive gifts and praise for achievements that fit the mold. High grades, sports trophies, and obedient kids. This year, they had a perfect addition to their collection. Anja. She's an exchange student from Germany, smart, charming, a skilled pianist with flawless English. Anja is everything my family admires. To my mother, Carol, Anja is a chance to flaunt her hospitality and class to her wealthy friends. My daughter, Chloe, knows this. She feels the shift in the air every time we visit. She sees how her grandparents light up when Anja talks about Europe, and she catches their eyes sliding over her blue hair with polite smiles that don't hide their judgment. But Chloe, with her generous heart, never stops trying. That morning, I watched her carefully wrap a canvas. She'd spent a week perfecting it. It was a landscape, a view from our bedroom window of distant peaks visible on a clear day. It was a bridge, an attempt to connect her two worlds. "Do you think they'll like it?" she asked, her voice fragile with hope. I swallowed the honest words rising in my throat. Instead, I smiled and hugged her. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Who wouldn't love it? On the drive up the mountain, snow-dusted pines flashed by the windows. Chloe played an indie track and hummed softly. Maybe this year will be different, she said, almost convincing herself. I just nodded, my hands tight on the steering wheel. I knew this script too well. When we arrived, a warm but hollow welcome hit us. My mother hugged Chloe tightly, but her eyes lingered on her hair. Chloe, sweetheart, that hair. It's quite a bold color, she said, a compliment that sounded like a critique. Chloe's painting was accepted with a quick thank you and propped against a living room wall, instantly forgotten among the pricey decor. Then all attention turned to Anja, who told a charming joke in English, making my father, Richard, chuckle with delight. For the next 2 hours, we watched a familiar performance. Chloe tried to join conversations but was often interrupted or ignored. Questions poured toward Anja. What do you think of Colorado snow? What are your college plans? Meanwhile, Chloe's story about winning a school photography contest got a distracted nod from her grandfather. I tried to pull her out to the porch for some fresh mountain air, a moment of peace, but she shook her head, offering a sad smile. I'm fine, Mom. Dinner soon. It'll be okay. She was wrong. It wasn't okay. Then the moment came. My mother, with the smile of a perfect hostess, stood and tapped her crystal wine glass to get everyone's attention. She was about to say a few words before the meal. We thought it would be a blessing. We were mistaken. The room fell into a formal silence. Warm golden light from the massive crystal chandelier above spilled over the long walnut dining table, set with flawless precision. Polished silver flatware gleamed next to expensive porcelain plates. At the table's center, a golden roasted turkey, steaming and fragrant, reigned like a king. All the guests, my family's friends and business associates, turned toward my mother, Carol, who stood at the head of the table, beaming. She was a queen surveying her kingdom. Her gaze swept the room, a subtle nod to my father, a warm smile for Jessica's family. For a fleeting moment, I let myself hope. Maybe this was when she'd say something kind about both granddaughters, about reunion, about unconditional love. Dear family, my mother began, her voice clear and resonant. On this Thanksgiving, I'm deeply grateful that we're all here, in this home, sharing the blessings we've been given. She paused, letting her words carry weight. This year, we're especially fortunate to have a new member at our table, she continued, turning her smile and gaze to Anja. The German girl blushed gracefully. Anja has brought a fresh breeze, a joy to our home. And so, we want to give Anja the most authentic and complete American Thanksgiving experience possible. She paused again. This time, her eyes shifted and landed on my daughter. My heart tightened. I knew what was coming. Chloe, sweetheart, my mother said, her voice syrupy with false warmth, the tone she used when about to ask something unacceptable. You'll understand, won't you? To let Anja truly feel the heart of an American family, we've decided to give her your seat at the main table tonight. The room plunged into a deadly silence, broken only by the crackle of the fireplace. I could feel every eye fixed on my daughter. Chloe's face went pale, all traces of joy and hope wiped away. The silver fork slipped from her trembling fingers, clattering onto the porcelain plate with a sharp, sharp clang that echoed in the stillness. She seemed frozen, her eyes wide, staring at her grandmother with raw confusion and hurt. My mother pressed on, as if oblivious to the cruelty of her words. Your family, so you can sit anywhere. I thought you could take the stool at the kitchen counter. It'll be fun. You can grab extra gravy for everyone if they need it. It wasn't just a seating change. It was a declaration, a public demotion. My daughter had been banished in front of everyone, reduced to a servant at her own family's feast. I scanned the table. My father, Richard, looked uneasy. He cleared his throat and adjusted his silk tie, but said nothing. My sister, Jessica, suddenly leaned down, feigning fascination with the swirls in her wineglass. The other guests exchanged awkward glances before quickly staring at their plates. No one spoke. No one defended her. That silence was worse than my mother's words. Chloe drew a shaky breath. Then, with a dignity I didn't know she had, she slowly stood. Every movement was stiff, deliberate. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at my mother and, in a voice so soft it was almost a whisper, said, "I understand." Then she turned and walked away. No more words. The sound of her shoes on the oak floor was the only noise in the room. Each step hammered my heart. Fury erupted in me like a volcano. I wanted to stand, flip this perfect table over. I wanted to scream at them all for their cowardice and cruelty. But then I saw my daughter's small figure disappearing through the doorway. Right now, she didn't need a warrior. She needed her mom. I quietly set my napkin down, pushed my chair back, and stood, ignoring the startled eyes turning toward me. I said nothing, just followed her. I found Chloe in the vast entry hall, frantically grabbing her coat. When she turned, I saw hot tears streaming down her cheeks. The wall of bravery she'd built had crumbled. "They don't want me here, Mom," she sobbed, her voice breaking. I stepped forward, pulled her into my arms, and held her tight. "I know, sweetheart. I know." I helped her into her coat, then grabbed my purse. We didn't belong here. As I reached for the cold brass doorknob, I heard Jessica's voice calling from the dining room. "Where are you guys going?" "Don't make this weird." I didn't look back. The heavy oak door slammed shut behind us, carrying away the fake chatter of the party and leaving us in the icy mountain night. A chapter of our lives had ended, but at that moment, I had no idea the real fight was just beginning. Our car rolled away from the mansion's cobblestone driveway, leaving behind the fake warmth of its lights and slipping into the cold darkness of the mountain road. Inside the car, the air felt even colder. A heavy, shattered silence hung over us. It wasn't the peaceful quiet we usually shared, but the silence of a shock too big for words. I glanced at Chloe. She was curled up in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the shadows of pines flashing by in the night. She wasn't sobbing anymore, but I could see silent tears rolling down her cheeks, glinting in the dim glow of the dashboard. Her blue hair, once a bold symbol of her free spirit and artistry, now looked faded in the dark, matted with tears. The new sweater she'd chosen so carefully, full of hope, now seemed like a costume for a tragic role. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. A tangled wave of emotions surged through me. First came blinding rage, a primal urge to turn the car around and unleash everything I'd held back for years. But the anger faded, giving way to a deep, aching sadness. And then guilt crashed in, heavy and bitter. This was my fault too. I'd seen the signs for years. The extra praise for Jessica, the pricier gifts for her kids, the subtle jabs at my life choices and Chloe's appearance. I'd seen it all. But what had I done? I'd chosen fake peace over the confrontation we needed. I'd told myself my mom's just like that. My dad doesn't sweat the small stuff. I'd taught my daughter to endure, to be resilient, instead of teaching her she had the right to demand respect. Tonight, that resilience had been broken, and I was the one who'd handed them the hammer. When we reached our apartment in Aurora, the contrast hit hard. No gleaming hardwood or crystal chandeliers. Just an old rug, stacks of books, and Chloe's half-finished painting still on its easel. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was ours. Chloe slipped into her room, shedding her Thanksgiving outfit for baggy pajamas. I made 2 mugs of hot chocolate, like I used to when she was little and had nightmares. We sat side by side on the couch, saying nothing, letting the warmth of the mugs seep into our hands. Her eyes drifted to the carefully wrapped canvas by the front door. She gave a small shake of her head, a tiny gesture heavy with disappointment. Her gift of connection had become a symbol of rejection. But my night wasn't over. I had a shift to cover. Leaving my heartbroken daughter alone on Thanksgiving night was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But patients were waiting, and duty is part of who I am. "I'll be back as soon as I can," I whispered, kissing her forehead. "Lock the door tight." The ER at Denver Health was a different world. Chaotic, loud, filled with harsh white light and relentless beeping. I slipped into my white coat, putting on my professional mask, shoving family pain aside to focus on the physical pain in front of me. Then, in the middle of trying to steal 5 minutes of rest in the break room with a cold cup of coffee, my phone rang. It was Jessica. I answered with a foolish flicker of hope. Maybe after we left, someone had realized. Maybe this was an apology, but the words I heard about Chloe ruining the vibe snuffed out that hope and replaced it with something harder, colder. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. When I hung up, I caught my faint reflection in the dark phone screen. I saw a woman exhausted from years of trying to please people who could never be pleased. A mother who'd put others' comfort above her daughter's dignity. But in those eyes, I saw something else taking shape. A spark. Jessica's guilty silence on the phone had confirmed it all. They didn't just make a mistake. They believed they were right. My shift had 8 hours left. 8 hours for my anger to cool and crystallize into a plan. They'd picked a fight with an ER mom. They didn't know I was used to making life or death calls in a split second. And I just decided this toxic relationship needed to be surgically removed. 8 hours. In the organized chaos of an ER on Thanksgiving night, 8 hours can feel like a lifetime or pass in the blink of an eye. For me that night, it was both. I threw myself into work with an almost mechanical focus. Every stitch, every dose, every diagnosis was delivered with cold precision. The anger and heartbreak didn't vanish. They were compressed, transformed into a sharp, relentless clarity. Each patient who came through seemed to carry a piece of my family's story. An elderly man with a broken hip, his eyes sparkling as he talked about his granddaughter starting college, made me think of my father, who hadn't bothered to ask Chloe about her art projects. A young woman with a food allergy, her mother's panicked face by her bedside a mirror of the fear I should have shown for my own daughter. Emergency medicine has one unbreakable rule. You have to pinpoint the root cause, not just treat the surface symptoms. In those 8 hours, I diagnosed my family's disease. It wasn't a misunderstanding or a one-time mistake. It was a chronic condition of disrespect, a tumor of complacency and dismissal that had spread over years. The treatment couldn't be the painkillers of shallow apologies. It needed surgery. In the middle of the night, Dr. Mateo Ramirez, a colleague I'd confided in earlier, quietly stepped into the break room where I was staring at the wall. He didn't say much. He just set a plastic container on the table in front of me. "My wife packed this for me," he said simply. "Turkey, mashed potatoes, and a slice of pumpkin pie. She always makes too much. Thanks, Mateo." "I'm not hungry," I replied, my voice weary. He pushed the container closer. "I know, but you still need to eat. A hungry doctor makes bad calls." I looked into his eyes and saw genuine care, no judgment, no prying. He didn't need the whole story. He just saw a burned-out colleague and acted. I opened the container. The aroma of homemade food filled the air, a scent of real kindness. And as I took my first bite of mashed potatoes, something in me broke open. My real Thanksgiving dinner wasn't in that fancy mountain mansion. It was here, under the fluorescent lights of a hospital break room, sharing a meal with a kind colleague. Family isn't just the people who share your blood. Family is the people who show up for you. Mateo's small gesture strengthened my resolve. Right then, I pulled out my phone. First, I called Sarah, a trusted neighbor. I briefly explained that Chloe had a rough night and was home alone. 15 minutes later, Sarah texted back, dropped off some soup and cookies for her. She says she's okay, just a bit down. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on her. My support network, my chosen family, had stepped in. When my shift ended at dawn, I drove home. The chaotic anger was gone. All that remained was a cold calm and a clear plan. I stepped into the apartment and saw Chloe fast asleep on the couch, curled up under a blanket. An empty hot chocolate mug sat on the table. My heart ached, but it was a pain fueled by determination, not helplessness. I sat at the kitchen table and opened the family group chat, a place usually filled with fake photos and hollow greetings. The members, Dad, Mom, and Jessica and her husband. I took a deep breath. My fingers moved across the screen, typing a message that was short, no wasted words, no emotion allowed to slip through. Everyone. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the Golden Grind coffee shop in Golden. We need to talk. I read the message again. It was a summons, not a request. It allowed no refusal, no negotiation. It was a new beginning set on my terms. I hit send. No hesitation, no regrets. The soft whoosh of the message echoed in the quiet kitchen. The game was set. And this time, I'd be the one making the rules. Sleep didn't come that night. Instead, it was coffee and adrenaline, the familiar fuel of ER nights. But this time, I wasn't fighting for a stranger's life. I was gearing up for a battle for my family's soul, and above all, for my daughter's dignity. As the first rays of morning sunlight slipped through the blinds, I saw Chloe was awake. She sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, eyes sunken but her gaze surprisingly clear. Yesterday's hurt was still there, wrapped in a quiet, resilient shell. "Mom," she said softly, "that message, have they responded?" I handed her my phone. A flurry of texts had poured in right after I sent it. From my mother, "What's this about, Evelyn? If there's an issue, let's talk privately." From Jessica, "You're blowing this way out of proportion." And from my father, always playing peacemaker, "Everyone calm down. There's got to be a misunderstanding here." My only reply to all of them was a single repeated message, 10 a.m., the golden grind. Chloe read them, then looked up at me. "You're not going to yell, are you?" I shook my head, resting a hand on her shoulder. "No, sweetheart. I won't yell. Yelling's for when you've lost control. Today, I'm in complete control. I'm just going to tell the truth." I paused. "You don't have to come if you don't want to. I can handle it." She looked at me, and for the first time in 24 hours, I saw that familiar spark in her eyes. "No," she said, her voice firmer. "I'm going. I need to be there." An hour later, we were driving toward Golden. The air in the car was nothing like yesterday's trip up the mountain. No fake hope, no simmering anxiety. Instead, there was a quiet unity. We were a team. The Golden Grind coffee shop sat on the main street of a quaint, bustling small town. I'd chosen it deliberately. A public place, busy with foot traffic, would force everyone to keep things civil. No theatrics or shouting matches here. We arrived 15 minutes early, picking a table in a quiet corner with a view of the whole place. We ordered 2 hot teas. When my family walked in at exactly 10, we were there, calm and ready. They looked like fish yanked out of their pond. My mother, Carol, usually the center of attention, seemed uncertain. My father, Richard, tried to keep his cool, but his unease showed in the way his eyes darted around the shop. Jessica had her arms crossed, her face full of defensiveness and resentment. They sat down. The initial silence was stifling, broken only by the hum of the coffee grinder and the chatter of other customers. My father spoke first. "Evelyn," he started, a hint of reproach in his tone. "Isn't this a bit dramatic?" I locked eyes with him, unflinching. "Dramatic," I said evenly, "is when a 16-year-old girl gets kicked out of her own family's Thanksgiving table to make room for a stranger. Dramatic is when not one person in the family calls to check if she got home safe. This isn't drama. This is a conversation that should have happened years ago." My mother started to object. I was only thinking, "No." I cut her off, firm but not loud. "Today, you don't start by explaining what you were thinking. You start by listening. So do you, Dad. And you, Jessica." I turned to Chloe, sitting straight-backed beside me. "Everyone's going to listen." I laid out the whole story, calm and objective, from Chloe preparing her painting, to my mother's announcement, to the complicit silence of the entire table. I didn't embellish, didn't add emotion. I just stated the facts. When I finished, my father looked genuinely remorseful. He cleared his throat. "Look, we're really sorry. Things went too far." Then he did what he thought would fix everything. He pulled out his wallet, slid a black credit card across the table toward me. "Evelyn, why don't you take this and buy Chloe that professional camera she's always wanted? Call it an apology from us. Let's put this behind us, okay?" The naivety of that move almost made me laugh. Almost. I looked at the credit card, then at my father. "Dad," I said, my voice no longer cold but filled with an infinite sadness. "You're trying to put a price on her pain. You think the humiliation she went through can be erased with a shiny new toy?" I gently pushed the card back. Chloe's dignity isn't something you can buy. Respect isn't something you swipe with a credit card. This was never about a camera. It's about this. I pointed to my heart. And it seems like, after all these years, you still don't get that. And the credit card sat alone in the middle of the table, gleaming under the lights. It wasn't a solution anymore. It was an indictment. And for the first time, I saw real panic in my parents' eyes. They were out of moves. A thick, heavy silence swallowed our table, denser than before. The black credit card lay there, a useless symbol of a power that had lost all value in this room. For the first time, I saw the defensiveness on my mother's face crumble, replaced by genuine confusion. My father stared at the card like it was an alien object, baffled that its usual magic had failed. The one to break the silence wasn't me. It was Jessica. "Put it away, Dad," my sister said softly, her voice almost a whisper. She didn't look at me, just at her own clasped hands. "This isn't about money." She took a deep breath. "It's about us. It's about me." She looked up, and for the first time, I didn't see defensiveness or resentment in her eyes. I saw shame. "I've been jealous," she admitted. "Always have been. You and Chloe, you two have something special. You're a team. You never needed mom and dad's approval the way I did. And Chloe, she's like you. She's strong, her own person. I let that jealousy turn into irritation, and I stood by when mom treated her unfairly. I didn't stand up for my niece. I'm sorry, Evelyn. And Chloe, I'm truly sorry. Jessica's confession was like a crack in an icy dam. Through that crack, Chloe finally found her voice. She turned to her grandmother, her eyes clear and fearless. "Grandma," she said, her voice still shaky but steadying. "I never needed fancy gifts or more praise than the other kids. I just wanted to be seen. When you criticized my hair or ignored my painting, you were telling me the real me wasn't good enough. I don't need you to love everything I do, but I need you to respect that I'm me, the same way you respect Anja or Ethan and Sophie." The simple, honest words of a 16-year-old did what my anger couldn't. They pierced my mother's armor. I saw her lips tremble. She looked at Chloe, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. "I'm sorry," my mother said, her voice hoarse. I didn't realize. I was so focused on how things looked that I forgot how they felt. "I'm sorry, Chloe. I'm truly sorry. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was real. And that was all we needed to start. So what now?" my father asked, his usual confidence gone. I took Chloe's hand under the table. "Now we set new rules," I said. "A reset. From here on, there'll be no comparing the grandkids. Chloe's interests and personality will be respected, just like my life choices. Everyone gets treated equally." And most importantly, I looked at each of them. We won't show up to any family events where we feel unwelcome or disrespected. We're done trading our peace for fake harmony. These are the terms. You can take them or leave them. 6 months later, Colorado's harsh winter had given way to a warm summer. Things had changed, not by some miracle, but through small, sometimes clumsy, but persistent efforts. My father stopped trying to fix things with money. Instead, he gave his time. He spent 2 weekends helping Chloe turn a corner of our old shed into a darkroom for film photography. He learned to listen more than offer solutions. Jessica and I started having coffee, just the two of us. We talked about real things, the pressures we both face. Competition gave way to an unexpected understanding. Last week, she sent Chloe an application for a prestigious photography summer camp. My mother was the slowest to change, but her change ran deepest. She still slipped into comparisons sometimes, but now she caught herself right away. She called Chloe not to ask about grades, but to talk about a photography technique Chloe had explained to her. She was learning a new language, the language of genuine care. That evening, as Chloe and I sat on the balcony, watching the mountains shift colors in the sunset, she turned to me and smiled. "You know, Mom," she said, "this fall I'm applying to an art school in Chicago. I thought I'd be scared, but I'm not anymore." "I'm so proud of you," I said, my heart full of a warm, steady love. Our relationship had shifted. I wasn't just her protector anymore, and she wasn't just the one needing protection. We'd become partners, learning together how to demand what we deserve. That awful Thanksgiving taught me a priceless lesson. Family isn't just the people you share blood with. Family is the ones who show up for you, who respect you, who see the real you and love that person. Sometimes setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about giving them a path to come closer, the right way. The greatest gift I can give my daughter isn't shielding her from every hurt. It's giving her the tools to protect herself, to know her worth, and to demand that others honor it. Thank you for hearing our story. If you've ever had to fight to set boundaries in your life, share your experience in the comments below. Hit the like button if this story touched you, and don't forget to subscribe to keep going on this journey with us. Remember, you deserve a seat of honor at any table you join.